Made with spoken. Rift Rangers, Volume 1, by DM KRULICKI. Digital narration performed by the Klondike players. The Salvage Mercy's command deck rattled with every misaligned pulse of its battered engines. The scent of ion smoke thickened the recycled air. The lights were dimmed, casting warp shadows across the faces of the gathered crew, their outlines broken by cables, dangling tools, and a suspicious stain that no one had dared to clean in months. At the center stood the captain, still cloaked, still silent. But this time, they moved with purpose. Krill stood at their side, scarred arms folded, expression coiled with anticipation.
"We have the location,"
he growled.
"IPC Wedding Charter, 094B. Delta Sector, cloaked perimeter shield, civilian registration. They think we won't notice."
He smirked, all teeth and metal.
"They forgot what we do to happy endings."
The Goen twins let out a dual snort of laughter. One of them burped. The other bit into something gelatinous and blue. Mills spun in a broken chair nearby, humming to himself and waving around a notepad with a poorly sketched diagram that looked more like a lopsided dinosaur than a tactical layout. Krill ignored him. The captain, as ever, did not. A single gloved hand rose, and Mills froze mid-spin. The captain stepped to the center of the holopad and tapped it once. The flickering projection of the wedding vessel sprang to life. Elegant, glowing, suspiciously underdefended.
"There,"
the captain said, their voice low and musical, like a knife slicing silk.
"We breached during the feast."
Krill nodded.
"Security will be minimal. Most of the IPC dignitaries will be drunk, distracted. It's the perfect moment to deploy the ripple bomb."
"Won't that, explode things?"
Mills asked, holding up a finger.
"Just checking. 'Cause last time there was an explosion, I lost my eyebrows for a bit."
Krill sighed.
"It doesn't explode. It fractures. A localized timeline quake. Enough to destabilize the region's temporal anchors."
Mills blinked.
"So, it breaks the party?"
"It breaks reality, you idiot."
The captain paced slowly around the projection.
"This quadrant has gone too long under IPC surveillance. They cradle the flow of time like it's fragile. But time is fire, chaos, change."
One of the twins burped again.
"We will light the match,"
the captain said,
"and let the watchers observe it burning."
Krill looked around the room.
"Our cover team will intercept one of the food delivery vessels. Replace the staff. We enter unnoticed, disguised, equipped."
"Wait,"
Mills said.
"you're letting me be near food again? After the souffle incident?"
"You're on distraction duty,"
Krill growled. Mills looked delighted. The tech in the shadows scribbled something furiously onto their datapad, and nodded. Timeline interference probabilities were rising. The plan, flawed and feverish as it was, might actually work.
"The IPC won't expect this,"
Krill muttered.
"They think too small. They never see the ripples until the wave hits."
The captain finally stopped pacing.
"Prepare the bomb, alert the boarding team, 1 hour until launch."
Their hood tilted, gaze sweeping across the mismatched crew.
"We are not here to crash a wedding.
A pause.
We're here to rewrite the vows."
Even Mills clapped at that one. The cramped tech bay of the Salvage Mercy wasn't built for comfort. It was built for cobbled-together diagnostics, old subspace routers, and whatever fried junk the crew dragged in hoping to turn into weapons. Surrounded by tangled wires, exposed circuits, and a flickering holo display, Resvonix hunched over a repurposed transponder unit with twitching, methodical fingers. He had to be careful, quiet, invisible. Res wasn't like the others. Not fully. His pale violet skin bore the faint tracery of mantle-like tattoos, mostly hidden under soot and grease. Where the other pirates were loud, dirty, and fueled by hate or ignorance, Res was deliberate, soft-spoken, calculated, and very much not one of them. He was a Zenthari, a species known for their long living minds and technical prowess. He should have been in a research colony or embedded deep in IPC engineering division. Instead, he'd spent the last 6 cycles embedded in Felf. A mole, handpicked by the IPC's counterwarp division. Res had volunteered after his sister had been erased in a temporal skirmish. caught in the crossfire of a timeline occlusion incited by early pattern pirate incursions. Her name was gone. Her entire branch pruned, Rez remembered, barely, and he held on to that fragment like fire. His infiltration was meant to last 1 year. It had now been 6. But the captain had grown cautious, paranoid, and smart. Too smart. Rez had to be very, very careful now. The pirates used an old Trellix 5 location beacon to spoof signals and maintain fake identic readings, masking their actual ship signature. Rez had slowly modified it, integrating a microcodex burst transmitter piggybacking on the beacon's regular pings. It would appear as standard telemetry, unless you knew where to look, and someone back at IPC had to be looking. He keyed in the final code word.
2. IPC Array Command. ShadowNet Channel A-13. From Observer Node V Delta Embedded Unit Res Vonix. Timestamp. Time obscured via drift mask. Priority Alpha. Pattern activity confirmed. Mission prep in final stages. Target event designated Ceremony of Note on Neutral Axis 3 Cultural Outpost. Projected infiltration via lower orbit drop at planetary dusk. Payload described as temporal disruption class. Potential chronofracture event localized. Recommend preemptive deterrence by Tier 1 field unit. Coordinates 6N.45.76-alt. Delta spread imminent. High probability of temporal bleed into neighboring sectors. Do not acknowledge receipt. Scramble loop initiated. The
codex flared green, transmitting, across light years, a whisper of treason rode an old pulse toward IPC command. Rez leaned back, rubbing his fingers on his oil-streaked trousers. Behind him, the salvage Mercy groaned. Somewhere, the twins were laughing. Krill was arguing. Mills was...
Rez!
Speak of the idiot. Mills popped his head in, upside down from the overhead vent where he'd wedged himself for no apparent reason.
Does this pipe lead to the coffee thingy or the poop tubes? I can never remember.
Rez sighed.
Don't touch anything.
Copy that!
Mills turned about right into the doorframe with a thump.
Ow!
Rez smirked faintly, but it didn't reach his eyes. Tomorrow, or the next day, IPC would receive the signal. He just hoped they'd send the right team. Time was unraveling, and the captain was planning something big. The hum of the Helix Array command deck was interrupted by a shrill ping.
Incoming burst.
Called out comms officer Gentavos, her brows tightening as the scrambled codec spilled across her screen. For a moment she stared, then stared harder. She tore the headset from her ears, letting it clatter against the console, and sprinted down the gantry steps toward the command-level officers.
Sir, Priority Alpha Codex, ShadowNet Channel, it's Observer Node V Delta, Embedded Unit, messages flagged Vornix threaded. It's real.
The commanding officer, Admiral Drex, took the tablet from her outstretched hand, scanning it with a practiced calm. A beat later, he turned toward his aides.
Wake Delta Teen. Now.
Minutes later, Delta Teen filed into the array war room, a hexagonal chamber lined with holo displays and tactical charts. The central table was already cycling through enhanced visual feeds of the wedding venue on Axis 3, dignitaries, shuttle routes, access ports, heat signatures, electromagnetic flows. David stood at the head of the table beside Now, both in uniform, serious and poised.
Pirates are targeting a diplomatic wedding,
Now began, his tone clipped.
We believe it's a timeline fracture event. Disrupting this moment could ripple into dozens of localized collapses. This is not a smash and grab. It's a surgical destabilization.
Jojo raised her hand without waiting.
Wait, they're bombing a wedding?
Zoch piped up beside her.
Patron pirates don't need to kill to make a point. All they need is instability. This one's classy, public. A bunch of diplomats in fancy suits? That's just gravy.
David nodded.
We'll be slipping in with the catering crew. I'll be embedded as floor staff. Keep comms open and stay flexible. If I spot an evac scenario, we pull the guests.
Sarah and I will remain on standby aboard the shuttle,
Mao continued.
Sarah will be running biometric analytics in real time. Anyone masking genetic profiles, using timeline scramblers, or even sweating wrong, she'll see it.
Sarah, leaning against the wall, simply tapped her wristband.
Already writing custom filters.
Now pointed to Jojo.
Your role is critical. You'll need to bypass the guest-level access to reach the ship's interior magnetic controls. This is remotely controlled on Fontos 5, the nearby planet. Zilch will be feeding you patch code remotely, and then get you transported onto the ship. Fail, and the bomb might detonate.
Jojo blinked.
Oh, that's all? Easy peasy. Just disable a time bomb. No pressure.
Zilch snorted.
I've drawn up 5 potential entry points. One even involves crawling through a laundry chute. I'll guide you.
Of course you will.
She muttered. 9 stood stoically at the edge of the room, his long rifle magnetically attached to a spine. He simply nodded when Mal addressed him.
Overwatch. Top elevation. Scan all vantage points. Priority is eyes on the captain and our access tech. Secondary is threat suppression.
Confirmed.
9 replied, voice level. David looked at them all, proud and cautious.
No hero plays. Watch each other's backs. If we pull this off, we stop the pattern pirates from making the biggest scene in a decade. And more importantly, we show them the Rift Rangers are not just a patch team anymore. We're the real thing.
Mao gave a final nod.
You have your roles. You have your intel. We deploy in 6 hours. Gear up. Let's make our mark.
As the team dispersed to prep, the wedding, and whatever chaos waited inside it, loomed just beyond the next horizon. The Ranger team huddled near a narrow panel hatch in the metallic underbelly of the wedding ship. Wires snaked from the open maintenance bay. Zilch hovered over a flickering schematic on his holopad, muttering to himself.
Okay, Jojo.
He said, his voice wet with the usual unintentional spittle.
Very simple. To destabilize the magnetic field just enough to scramble the ripple bomb, you press the blue square button, the one right beside the round orange one. Blue, square, beside, orange, round.
Jojo blinked twice.
Got it. Push the round blue button next to the square orange.
Zilch spuzzed.
No, reverse that. Blue square next to orange round. There is no blue round next to orange square. That's not even a thing.
David smirked.
Are we sure there's not a red hexagon involved? Maybe with glitter settings?
Captain, not helping.
Zilch snapped.
I'm trying.
Jojo huffed.
Everything down here looks like it was built by blind raccoons on caffeine. These buttons wiggle.
So do I under stress.
Zilch replied, jabbing at his pad.
But I don't blow up diplomatic weddings.
Yet?
Sarah muttered over comms.
Jojo, write it down on your arm. Now.
Jojo reached into her boot that she reluctantly wore, but Nishan Optics says it's required, and pulled out a half-used marker. She stared at her forearm like it had just become the final frontier.
Wait, does square have 4 or 5 sides again?
9's calm voice filtered in.
4, unless you mean it metaphorically, then it has none.
David rubbed his face.
Remind me again why we let her near the control panel?
Because I'm adorable and disposable?
Jojo offered brightly, already drawing.
Blue square next to orange round.
She murmured, as she scrawled, then added a little smiley face.
That'll jog the old neurons.
Zilch peeked over her shoulder.
That's either genius or tragic. Not sure which one.
You sure we shouldn't just have her blow the whole grid?
David asked.
Only if you want flying cake, a ruptured timeline, and Sarah getting pissed off enough to kill us all with just her pinky.
Zilch answered.
Fair.
Jojo looked up with a sheepish grin.
No pressure, right? Just saving the cosmos and the creme brulee.
Exactly,
David said.
Just aim for the right button and nobody explodes.
Probably?
She chirped. The team sighed in collective dread. Zilch sighed loudest.
I swear, I need a sedative pack in my toolkit.
Aboard the gutted and grime-slick food transport vessel the Gorgon-Knot, the dim hum of old power cores droned like the snoring of a drunken beast. The interior flickered with ready-to-fail lights, refrigerant wires hung like limp vines, and the floor was sticky with something nobody wanted to identify. The crew assembled in the main hold, more a cargo bay with folding chairs than a command center. The twins, Rask and Rend, lounged with matching grins and mismatched knives, flipping them casually while chewing on what might have once been Joki. Across from them stood Krill, the captain's right hand, shoulders hunched and eyes sharp. In his gloved hands, clutched to his chest like a religious relic, was the containment case, a cold black oblong with red biometric seals glowing faintly along its surface.
No one touches the bomb but me,
Krill growled, locking eyes with the twins. Wouldn't dream of it, Ren smirked.
Unless we were bored,
Added Rask, licking his knife. Krill didn't blink. The mole, known aboard only as Rez, sat nearby, dressed in elegant ceremonial robes far too refined for this dump. His eyes flicked from face to face, his posture too calm. He adjusted the data circlet on his temple, ensuring his comms channel stayed encrypted. His role as a dignitary would grant him access to the highest levels of the wedding ship and a perfect view to confirm the Ranger's arrival. If they failed to show, he would send a separate alert. In the back corner, a lanky, soot-smudged figure fiddled with a frying pan, oblivious to the tension.
I made snacks,
Mills said proudly, holding up a plate of what looked suspiciously like compressed lubricant tabs sprinkled with sugar.
You're staying here,
The captain said from the shadows, voice smooth and jagged like broken glass dipped in silk. Their face remained unseen beneath the deep cowl. Only the glint of a single cybernetic eye hinted at anything beneath. Mills deflated slightly.
But I want to contribute too. Help with my skill sets.
Exactly why you're staying.
Krill stepped forward.
Twins, you go in as guests. Rask, stick to the dance floor. Rend, mingle near the exits. Rez, comms and vantage. I'm on internal with all of you. Timeline's short. We hit the field as soon as the dignitaries are locked in. The wedding's the smoke. The ripple bomb's the fire. We fracture the event, trigger an echo chain, and slip out during the initial confusion.
The captain stepped forward, boots silent on the deck.
This wedding marks a critical convergence. Enough instability seeded here, and the IPC surveillance will be compromised in this quadrant for a full cycle. Then, we move freely.
A hush fell. Krill gave a single nod.
Move out.
The twins high-fived and vanished into the prep bay, donning ludicrous noble attire with knives hidden everywhere. Rez adjusted his collar, mask already uploading falsified credentials. Mills wandered off toward the kitchen, muttering to himself.
They never appreciate the culinary arts of sabotage.
Back in the shadows, the captain turned slowly toward the V-port, watching the stars crawl.
Let them dance, let them drink. This celebration ends in ash.
The light on Krill's containment case blinked once, then stayed red. The control room of Fontos 5 was not designed for comfort. It was a cavernous chamber of humming panels, sharp-cornered consoles, and heat. Too much heat. Jojo Jet stood at the central access terminal, her uniform damp with sweat, curls of red hair clinging to her forehead like panicked vines.
Okay.
She whispered, staring at the schematics Zilch had uploaded. They hovered in front of her in a translucent display, flickering slightly with every system surge.
This is fine. Totally fine. I am a certified genius with at least 3 commendations for, effort?
She squinted at the diagram, eyes darting between it and the panel in front of her.
Blue square button next to the orange round one. Blue square, orange round.
Jojo glanced down at her arm. Nothing. Her stomach flipped. The sweat had smeared her makeshift cheat sheet clean off, leaving behind only the ghost of a smiley face, now looking more like a sad blobfish.
No.
She muttered.
Okay. Think, Jojo. What did Zilch say? Blue square beside orange round, or was it orange triangle near the squiggly square? No, there was definitely a round thing. I remember shapes. I can do shapes.
Her hand hovered over the panel. Her conscience yin and yang argued silently.
Don't guess. You'll explode the wedding, but if you ask for help, they'll know. You'll never live it down. Zilch will do the spit laugh. Exploding is worse than laughing. Yes, but embarrassment lasts forever.
Jojo groaned.
Okay, you got this. Let's use logic. Which button looks like it wants to be pressed to destabilize a magnetic field?
She examined them critically. One was blinking blue and looked vaguely square.
You,
she whispered, pointing.
You seem squarish. You're maybe 83% square, and you seem very round, possibly smug. Definitely suspicious.
She closed her eyes.
Okay. Zilch said, blue square beside orange round. This has to be it. Unless the panel is upside down, or I'm upside down.
A quiet beep echoed from the hallway. She jumped.
Okay, enough. This is it. Press the button. You can do this, Jet. For the creme brulee. For the timeline.
Her finger hovered, trembled, then descended. Click.
Please don't be the cake ejector,
she whispered. The wedding was in full swing, a glittering affair of dignitaries and delegates, layered in fabrics richer than planetary GDPs, and perfumes strong enough to choke a lesser species. Waitstaff moved with trained grace, balancing crystal flutes of alien vintages and platters of delicacies that shifted color when touched. The venue itself, a luxurious orbital garden dome, shimmered with the illusion of the sunset sky, the curve of stars visible above like a blessing. David moved through the crowd with casual poise, dressed in the clean lines of a service uniform, tailored just slightly better than the others. His hair was slicked back, his stance relaxed but alert. A tray of shimmering green cocktails floated effortlessly in his grip as he weaved between the guests. He smiled, nodded, laughed at the right moments, but his eyes were scanning, always scanning. High above, hidden in the lighting lattice of the dome, Nine adjusted the scope of his magnetic latch rifle. His sniper nest was barely large enough for his angular frame, but he fit. He always fit. His eye clicked as he switched visual spectrums, locking onto heat signatures, looking for anything that moved with too much purpose. His voice crackled over comms in a whisper only the team could hear.
No threats, yet.
Back in the service corridor, just behind the ballroom, a silent blip pulsed across the team's private channel. Jojo's code. 3 short pulses. Her field alteration was in place. David's hand paused briefly over a tray of brightly glowing appetizers. That was the signal. The ripple bomb, if real, would now be rendered inert by the tweaked magnetic field running through the dome's energy matrix. Assuming Jojo had pressed the right button, David resumed his pace, this time a little lighter. The music swelled. Somewhere, the bride laughed. Distantly, a champagne bottle popped like a tiny cannon of celebration. And David, balancing a tray of drinks with one hand, kept the other close to the communicator hidden in his cuff, ready for whatever came next. Now that the board was set, it was time to let the game begin. Jojo was sweating even more now, her confidence shrinking by the second. She was sure she pressed the right combo. Had to be right, right? Her lack of confidence forced her hand. She had to come clean.
Boss?
Jojo pressed.
I think I may or may not have accidentally pushed the wrong button back at Fontos 5. Do you think that might cause a problem?
David closed his eyes. She did not just say that.
What do you mean the wrong button? I clearly said the blue square button beside the round orange one.
Oh, I thought you said the square orange one beside the round blue one. Dyslexia is a terrible disease, you know. I'm sorry, it was so hot and I got sweaty and...
He groaned.
How do you even... Never mind. Pulling up the schematic now.
A blink activated his E-lens. Within a breath, a floating schematic overlaid the wedding hall. His eye twitched.
Oh no.
Boss?
Oh no, shit.
A third voice joined the comms, deep, heavy, and commanding.
What did she do, Captain?
David took a breath.
She triggered a multi-rift event, one that spans every timeline currently mapped.
A beat of silence. He adjusted the collar on his well-fitted caterer's uniform, scanning the opulent room again. Long banquet tables, hollow flower centerpieces, ceiling-length drapes shifting in a breeze that didn't exist. And a hovering band playing something smooth enough to disarm any suspicions. Things were too smooth, too normal. David wondered when that proverbial shoe was going to drop. The pirate faction Cladan, known to frequent high-optic events like this royal wedding, were rumored to be planning an attack here today. The agency had the position of ensuring this day went off without a hitch, or at least mitigate the damage that may occur. Clads had a penchant for sneak attacks on the unsuspecting. Then, crash! The pyramid of ceremonial drink flutes shattered as a body landed squarely in the center of the reception. David spun. A man, spitting image of himself, stood up from the wreckage, brushing glittering shards from his vest, shoulder-length golden hair, rippling muscles, combat boots, and the formal wear.
Damn,
David muttered.
That's a good look for me.
The man glanced around, then locked eyes with David. His mouth curled into a knowing smile. His hand moved to his belt. Then a second David dropped through the stained-glass skylight above, tucking into a roll and rising in a defensive stance, blaster drawn.
Which one of you is the imposter?
He barked. Another emerged from behind a curtain, mid-sprint. Then one more burst to a service door, breathing hard, scanning everyone with suspicion. Within seconds, there were 5 of him. All in different outfits, different eras, different levels of stubble. All drawing weapons. All confused. all thinking they were the only one chasing a fake. And all of them targeting each other. David raised his hand slowly.
Guys, I think we may have a...
Too late. Blasters lit the air. Guests screamed. Drones dove for cover. And from across the floor, 3 unassuming guests lowered their champagne flutes and tapped discreet controls on the cuffs beneath their sleeves. Their eyes shimmered with a low amber glow as they moved. Not to run, but to intercept. Pattern pirates. The wedding was about to become ground zero. Blaster fire crackled through the air as guests dove under tables or ran screaming toward the exits. Drones zipped and weaved, some broadcasting the chaos in real time across the quadrant, others frantically shielding VIPs behind energy domes. David ducked, tray still in hand, just as a stun bolt sizzled past his ear and scorched a flamingo-feathered centerpiece into ash.
Okay, no more playing nice,
he muttered. A blur of motion caught his eye. An approaching figure with the same jacket, same eyes, but half the height. The dwarf version of him was charging forward like a cannonball, fists clenched in expression of pure rage. David froze, blinked, and let out a single stunned laugh.
Oh my god, I definitely see a little me in you.
Very funny, Stretch.
Mini Klondike snapped.
Why the hell are you all so tall?
David shifted the tray to his other hand, still smirking at the dwarf version of himself.
I don't know, but I'm definitely tossing you aside first.
Mini Klondike launched himself into a clumsy leap. David sidestepped and hip-tossed him clean over the dessert table, sending him skidding across the polished floor like a curling stone. He crashed into a pyramid of sugar sculptures with a grunt. David didn't have time to gloat. Something heavy landed behind him. Metal footfalls. A mechanical hiss. He turned just in time to see the cyborg Klondike, half man, half machinery, all trouble, barreling toward him with a bionic arm raised and sparking.
Oh, you look like a blast at parties. Is that arm a can opener too?
David muttered, then sprinted, vaulted a buffet table, and tucked into a perfect roll. Cyborg Klondike mirrored the move with uncanny synchronicity, diving into his own shoulder roll across the wedding cake display. The two leapt toward each other, fists drawn back, the scene slowing in motion to a crawl. Record scratch. Freeze frame.
Yep, that's where we began.
David's voice cuts in, casually smug.
You're now up to date on how I got here. At a wedding, disguised as waitstaff, while a pirate cell attempts to detonate a ripple bomb and collapse multiple timelines. Classic Tuesday, right?
A slow zoom in on David's frozen face. Tray of champagne flutes midair. His left eyebrow arched like it knew something the rest of his face hadn't figured out yet.
Now that you're all caught up, let's keep this temporal train wreck rolling.
David wakes. The frame unfreezes. Glasses crash. Fists land their punches, the sound of teeth being knocked out.
Showtime,
David mutters, slipping through the crowd. And then the chandelier above them ruptured with a deafening crack. Shards of crystal rained down in molten flecks of light, scattering across the polished obsidian like falling stars. Guests shrieked, scattering toward the far doors, their jeweled robes and layered silks dragging like frightened comets. David hit the floor in a roll, shoulder first, shards biting into his sleeve. Cyborg Klondike landed opposite, servos whining, his mechanical arm gouging a furrow through the marble tiles. For a split second, every version of him in the room froze. 5 fractured reflections, each locked on him, each convinced the others were fakes. David's heart hammered. It was like staring into a broken mirror, every shard alive and hunting. Somewhere in his ear, Jojo's voice crackled through the static.
Oh no, I think I pressed the...
Then the feed dissolved.
Yes, Jojo,
he muttered, teeth bared.
You pressed it all right.
Blaster fire snapped him back. The tuxedoed doppelganger fired a stun bolt that seared through a tapestry, setting flame to a wall of hollow flowers. Another David, graying at the temples, leveled a weapon with shaking hands. The mini Klondike had already recovered, barreling through the smoke with a feral scream. And beyond them, 3 guests rose from their seats, champagne flutes abandoned, eyes glowing amber. Pattern pirates. Not fleeing, not panicked, advancing. The wedding hall dissolved into pandemonium. Music collapsed into static. Drones dived for cover, a few still broadcasting live feeds to anyone in the quadrant. Nobles stampeded toward the doors, their jeweled masks falling away in the crush. Smoke from scorched drapery curled into the rafters, painting everything in a haze of gold and violet. David forced a breath. He wasn't sure who to fight first, the pirates, his doubles, or the universe itself. But one truth cut sharper than any blade. If he didn't prove himself the real one here, this timeline wouldn't survive the hour. The pattern pirate struck first. One flick of a jeweled cuff, and the nearest table imploded in a burst of amber light, the shockwave hurling guests like ragdolls. Another pirate drew twin plasma blades from beneath her gown, their glow painting the walls with fire. The third raised a wrist and loosed a cascade of microdrones that swarmed toward the nearest target, unluckily David himself. David swore and ducked behind a half-toppled banquet table. A stun bolt from sideboard Klondike sizzled past him, grazing the pirate's drone cloud instead. The little machines erupted in sparks, spinning out of control before detonating against the vaulted ceiling. Smoke rained down in thick, acrid plumes. And through the haze, the older David stepped forward. His hair was graying, his stance slower but steadier, eyes shattered with weight that David didn't want to name. The blaster in his grip hummed as he fired clean, precise shots that scattered the pirates back on their heels. David blinked.
Wait, you're actually helping me?
Don't flatter yourself,
the older man rasped.
I'm helping me, and if you're me, you'll shut up and shoot straighter.
They fell into a jagged rhythm, David diving, rolling, firing wide, the elder covering him with brutal efficiency. Cyborg Klondike lunged, but a single calculated blast from the elder sent him sprawling into a toppled dessert cart. Mini Klondike, halfway through another wild charge, found himself shoved aside by a pirate's plasma strike. The room dissolved into pure bedlam, shrieking guests, collapsing chandeliers, pirate fire clashing against half a dozen versions of David who couldn't decide whether to kill him or join him. And somehow, impossibly, the older version and the younger moved together, backs almost touching, fighting like mirror images out of sync but bound by the same instinct.
Not bad,
David muttered between blasts.
You've still got the moves.
The older version grunted.
You'll learn. After everything. After you lose them. After you...
He cut himself off, jaw tight, eyes flickering with memories David didn't yet carry. David risked Lance.
After I what?
A bitter smile tugged at the elder's mouth. He fired again, the bolt ripping through a pirate's shoulder.
You'll see. You'll see everything sooner than you want. And you'll hate it. You'll hate me.
The words sank like lead, even as David ducked another volley. He opened his mouth, searching for something sharp, something defiant. The elder cut him off with a sardonic chuckle, shaking his head.
Hell, kid, just you wait.
David froze, breath caught, time stuttering just for him. For a heartbeat, he couldn't tell if the old man had meant it as a warning, a joke, or something far stranger, like a message bleeding through the seams of reality itself. But then, the pirates surged again, and the moment was gone. The elder's words hung in David's head longer than they should have, but the pirates gave him no room to dwell. The one with plasma blades cut a swath through the crowd, slicing tables into smoking heaps. Another raised his cuff, releasing a concussive burst that hurled the nearest chandelier to the floor, shattering crystal into molten hail. The third, a lean figure with half his face tattooed in geometric amber, barked commands that sent the pirates moving with terrifying precision. Blaster fire from the other Davids filled the room, wild, uncoordinated, each version convinced the others were imposters. A bolt from golden-haired David scorched the elder's shoulder guard, and only a vicious counterstrike kept Cyborg Klondike from seizing the opening. Mini Klondike was climbing onto the dais, waving a purloin steak knife like he meant to take on the universe one stab at a time.
Unbelievable,
David muttered.
I finally get back up, and it's me trying to kill me.
Focus,
the older version barked, firing a clean shot that toppled the pirate just as she was about to carve through fleeing nobles.
They'll tear this timeline apart, and you're worrying about your damn sense of humor?
Hey,
David snapped, ducking a plasma burst and flinging his dented tray into another double's face.
The sense of humor is what's keeping me from curling up in a fetal ball right now.
The elder didn't answer. His shots were steady, but his breath came ragged, and David noticed his hands trembling in the reload. Age, fatigued, something worse. He didn't have time to ask. Because the pirate commander, amber tattoos glimmering like circuitry, had leveled a disruptor cannon straight at the heart of the room. The weapon hummed, spitting arcs of amber lightning that curled around its muzzle. Every version of David froze, eyes fixed on the same glowing barrel.
Oh, that's not good,
David whispered. No, the elder rasped. His gaze flicked to the ceiling, then back to David.
When it fires, we won't just lose this hall. The whole sequence will collapse.
Sequence?
The older man's jaw flexed, as though he'd already said too much. He fired anyway, his bolt searing into the cannon stabilizer. Sparks burst, but it kept charging. David swore under his breath. This wasn't going to be stopped by clever banter or trade tricks. He could feel it in his bones, the moment when one of them had to take the lead, or they'd all burn for it. And for the first time, as smoke filled his lungs and the crowd screamed around him, David realized it might actually be him. The hum of the disruptor cannon deepened, rattling the obsidian floor beneath their feet. Cracks spidered through the marble tiles where the energy pooled, and the entire chamber vibrated with the pressure of time itself buckling. Guests had given up fleeing in order, and now scrambled in a full-blown stampede. A dozen crushed against the ornate doors, as drones tried and failed to keep order.
Any ideas?
David shouted over the din, ducking another wild shot from Golden Hair.
Yes,
the elder said grimly, snapping off 2 quick blasts at the cannon's emitter coils.
Don't die.
Brilliant. Inspirational. No wonder I grew up to be so popular.
The older version gave him a look that managed to be equal parts fury and pity.
You think this is about popularity?
He shoved David aside as a plasma bolt scorched through the space where his chest had been.
This is about survival, about whom lives to carry the weight.
David landed hard against a toppled buffet, his palms singing from broken crystal. The elder fired again, but his aim faltered, just slightly, enough that the bolt skittered across the cannon's plating without effect. Then David saw it, the tremor in his hands, a slight sag in his stance. He was strong, but he was fading. And all around, the other David circled like wolves, weapons drawn, eyes filled with the same suspicion he felt toward them. Cyborg servos growled as he reloaded. Mini Klondike scrambled up onto a serving cart, knife raised, determined to launch himself into someone's spine. For a heartbeat, David wanted to laugh, to joke, to call the whole mess a cosmic prank. But then the cannon surged, a line of amber fire lancing across the room and disintegrating a chandelier in one stroke. The scream that followed wasn't fear, it was despair. The entire hall seemed to know that if the next shot fired, the timeline itself would go with it. David rose. He could feel every version of himself turning toward him in that moment. Not in recognition, not in trust, but in the same unspoken calculation. If one of us is going to make the call, it's him.
All right,
David said, voice steady, even as smoke stung his lungs.
Listen up, all of me. Stop this bullshit nonsense fighting. We have a much bigger problem. That idiot pirate with the cannon. Here's how it's going to go. Shiny hair, you cover the left flank. Cyborg, you're on point. Minnie, you distract them, you're good at that. And you...
He jabbed a finger at the elder.
You and I are taking the cannon.
The doubles hesitated, some scowling, some glaring, but none fired. For the first time, the chaos bent, not ended, not controlled, but bent around David's words. The older version gave him a sharp, almost incredulous glance, then barked a laugh.
Well, took you long enough to sound like a captain.
Together, they charged. The elder's shots ripped into the stabilizer core, sparks flying in sheets of amber light. David vaulted the dais, rolling through smoke and overturned tables, before springing up in front of the cannon's muzzle. It loomed like the mouth of some mechanical beast, amber glow pulsing, ready to spit destruction. David grabbed the silver tray from the wreckage, angled it just so, and prayed physics still liked him in this timeline. The cannon discharged with a scream of lightning. The beam struck the tray, ricocheted upward, and slammed into the vaulted ceiling. Energy rippled across the crystalline beams like a storm trapped in glass. The ceiling didn't collapse, but it cracked, a jagged fracture racing across its length, scattering dust and molten crystal. The blast rocked the hall, pirates stumbled, guests cowered, and David, tray burned to slag in his hands, straightened, chest heaving, eyes locked on the elder. The older man's smile was thin, weary, but proud.
There it is,
he said quietly.
The moment you finally believe yourself.
Then his expression darkened, voice dropping low enough only David could hear.
But it won't last, not when you see what comes after.
He glanced toward the glowing fracture above, as though watching something only he could perceive. David's throat tightened.
What the hell are you talking about?
The elder chuckled once, bitter as ash.
Wait till you see what happens in the next book.
David's fist connected with one of the pirate's jaw, or would have. Instead, there was a white-hot snap of light, and his target was gone. The sudden lack of resistance sent him pitching forward, stumbling into an elaborate swan-shaped ice sculpture. The beak snapped clean off, spinning across the floor like a chrome coin.
What the?
He spun around. The other versions of himself, the grizzled marine, the long-haired gunslinger, even the one in the tux, were blinking out of existence, one by one. Each vanished in the same flash and snap, like blown fuses. Jojo must have done something. She was talented that way. In the sweaty control room on Fontos 5, Jojo stood over the panel, her stomach twisting. She could see the chaos on her terminal, the multiplied Captain Klondikes darting, clashing, swinging weapons at each other like some absurd multiverse family reunion gone wrong, and her hands shook over the console.
What did you do?
Mal barked from her left, his voice the verbal equivalent of a shove.
I was just...
Fix it.
Sarah's voice cut sharper than the blade on her hip. Jojo's eyes darted over the panel. Screens flickered with branching timelines, dozens of Davids flickering in and out like bad reception. She started slapping keys and toggles at random. Nothing happened. The panic clawed up her throat. She shut her eyes, breathed. Her little brother's voice slid into her head. Not real, just the kind of memory that shows up when you need it most. Relax. You know what to do. It's your gift. Use it. Her fingers steadied. She exhaled, opened her eyes, and began to move. Swipe, tap, slide, twist, swipe, tap, tap, tap. A perfect rhythm. Military precision disguised as instinct. Below, the duplicates began popping out of reality in rapid succession, each flash bringing the scene closer to normal. The floor cleared. Silence, for half a beat. Then a small cough came from behind David. He turned. There, standing no taller than his waist, was another version of himself. Same smirk, same uniform, but with a chunky metallic wristband glowing faintly.
Well,
the dwarf version said.
Looks like I'm not on her get-em-gone grid.
David blinked.
Great, just what I needed. A fun-sized me.
The dwarf folded his arms.
We prefer the term right-sized, thanks.
Right-sized? You can barely reach the punch bowl.
Funny. Where I'm from, everyone's my height. The tall ones are the freaks, banging their heads on door frames, always complaining about how our buildings are too cramped, demanding equal rights, like it's our fault they're vertically challenged.
Sounds rough. Bet they can reach the top shelf, though.
David smirked. The dwarf grinned wickedly.
Small hands mean big.
Stop.
David put up a hand.
I know where you're going with that.
Hey, you started it.
They locked eyes for a beat, the mirrored smirk creeping back onto both their faces.
So what's with the bling?
David nodded toward the glowing metallic wristband.
This?
The dwarf flexed his arm so the band caught the light.
This lets me stay in timelines longer than I should without causing a rift. I can work anywhere, anywhen, and the future or past stays clean. Mostly.
David's grin faded into curiosity.
And why don't I have that as standard issue equipment?
Because if every half-wit with a grudge could hop timelines without consequences, history would look like Swiss cheese in about 5 minutes. Besides, it's not standard issue. I picked it up by chance at a bazaar on the outer reaches of Sector 7. Lucky find, really. The pirates already want it bad enough. It's why I keep moving. The second I stop, they'll find me.
David gave a low whistle.
So you're just sprinting through history, keeping them at bay?
Pretty much. Same as you, different legs.
There was something in his tone, an unspoken recognition. Different worlds, same mission. David stuck out his hand.
All right, fun-sized. Let's keep them running.
The dwarf took it, shaking with a firm grip.
Just don't call me fun-sized again, or I'll make you vertically challenged in a different way.
David adjusted his jacket, brushing ice shards off his shoulder.
All right, short stack, what do you know about the pirates here?
The dwarf crossed his arms.
First, it's Captain right-sized. Second, they've been moving something big under all this chaos, smuggling it in with the guests. I've been tracking a couple of their runners since I got here.
David nodded.
Same here, upper balcony, table 14. 2 guests with the charm bracelets that aren't on the registry.
The dwarf's eyes lit up.
So, it's not just me that noticed. Guess I'm not the only pretty face.
David smirked.
Pretty's pushing it.
Over the din of the event getting back to normal, a harsh voice cut in. The pirate captain.
Do it now. Detonate before they get control back.
Both David's heads snapped toward the crowd. Before they could move, Jojo stormed in through the side doors, still keyed up from Fontos 5. She skidded to a stop mid-stride, eyes ping-ponging between the two Davids. Then she just lost it.
Oh my god.
She doubled over, laughing so hard she had to brace herself on the buffet table.
There's two of you? One regular-sized grumpy one and one travel edition?
Don't encourage her,
David muttered. The dwarf tilted his head.
See? She gets it.
Jojo wheezed, waving a hand like she was swatting the idea away.
I'm sorry, I just can't take this seriously. Oh my god.
Jojo!
Ma's voice barked from her earpiece.
Focus.
Sara's, sharper, colder tone followed.
They have the bomb.
Jojo straightened, still chuckling, but then she froze, mid-breath, her eyes unfocused, fixed on something no one else could see. David took a step towards her.
Jojo.
She didn't move. Her voice, when it came, was low and even, stripped of all humor.
It's here.
What's here?
The dwarf asked.
The rift.
She blinked once, twice, and her whole posture changed. Her natural talent for sensing this kicked in, one of the reasons they wanted her on this team.
The bomb's not just a bomb, it's a temporal charge.
Meaning?
David pressed.
Meaning if it goes off at this location of the temporal anomaly, it fractures everything within a 300-meter bubble across multiple timelines. And it's...
She gasped, eyes wide.
Jojo.
David urged. She shouted at the team without a breath.
It's too late. They've detonated. Things are changing. Wrong now.
The room seemed to inhale all at once, and then the world shifted. Fell silent. No sound. No motion. Every breath in the room held midair as if the universe itself paused to watch. Then the light came. It started as a pinprick, a sharp, needle-thin fissure glowing yellow-white, hanging in the center of the ballroom like a crack in glass. It pulsed once, twice. Then it spread as the single tier fractured into two. 2 into 4. 4 into 8. In an instant, the rifts were everywhere, slicing through the air like lightning bolts drawn sideways. Thin, jagged scars, glowing so bright they burned after images into everyone's retina. One split the chandelier's reflection on the polished floor. Another skimmed the ceiling, throwing warped shadows across the walls. David turned, and the ballroom was gone, not destroyed, replaced. The walls and ceiling dissolved away, revealing a black expanse of space stretching farther than the eye could see. Stars shimmered beyond counting. The rifts kept multiplying. Boom. One behind him. Boom. Another. Far out in the distance. Boom, boom. 2 more, side by side, in the shadow of a distant asteroid. Each tear appeared, flashed with blinding heat light, and vanished again, not closing so much as snapping out of reality, like popped soap bubbles in some cosmic froth. The weight doubled with each beat. Boom, 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 boom. The sky was a minefield of ruptures now. Cracks racing across the fabric of time in all directions. Jojo's hands were over her mouth. She'd seen rifts before, but never this many, never like this. She could feel them in her bones, each pop a thread being cut, each flash an event rewritten somewhere in the sprawl of infinity. Then, silence again. The stars remained. Familiar constellations held their positions. The asteroid belt hung where it should. The void looked unchanged. But David felt it. Something was off. It was in the way the light from the nearest star seemed a fraction cooler. In the almost imperceptible delay when he moved his hand before his own eyes. In the weight of the air in his lungs, subtly wrong. Mao's voice broke the stillness.
Status?
David didn't answer immediately. His gaze swept over the others in the room. Jojo, Sara, the dwarf version of himself, and for a heartbeat, he swore their faces were different. Not dramatically. Just a turn of the eye here, a line of expression there. They didn't notice. None of them knew. But he did, and so would they, soon enough. Somewhere, across countless threads of history, cause and effect had shifted. People who had lived now hadn't. People who were enemies might be friends. Events, relationships, whole empires might have been nudged, some by a hair, some by a shove. And all of it because of one bomb, in combination with one mistake. One wrong button press. Jojo exhaled shakily, still clutching the console. She didn't yet understand what she'd unleashed. Jojo stood rooted to the spot, her pulse still echoing in her ears from the blast. That voice she'd heard before, the one that told her to breathe, to focus, to use her gift, still rang clear in her mind. But whose voice was it? She replayed it over and over, trying to attach it to a face. Nothing. Just the memory of warmth, the kind of fierce, protective comfort you don't get from a stranger. She knew it meant something, someone, but the harder she tried to pin it down, the more it slipped away. It was like chasing smoke. Something was missing. Before she could dwell on it, a voice snapped over the comms, sharp, clipped, and angry.
All units, this is command. Your failure has caused damage beyond belief. Return to HQ immediately for debrief and reassignment.
The line went dead before anyone could respond. David shot a glance at Mao, then Sarah. Even the dwarf version of him had gone quiet. The unspoken weight in the room was the same for all of them. They'd blew it. No one argued. They just turned and headed for extraction. Two senior officers stood side by side at a central display, watching telemetry streams scroll past.
I told you they weren't ready,
one of them said, voice low but edged with frustration.
Maybe the Watchers were wrong,
the other replied, folding his arms.
We'll convene the team for briefing when they arrive.
The second officer turned to leave, but paused.
Do you want to see Jojo privately, sir?
The first man, tall, broad-shouldered, with a presence that filled the room, didn't look up from the display.
I'll deal with her another time. I don't want to single her out.
The second man gave a short nod.
Very good, Commander Jet.
Then he walked away, leaving the commander alone in the dim glow of the monitors. Commander Jet, Jojo's father in this altered reality, watched the silent feed of the Rift Ranger's ship returning to dock. His jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed nothing. The cabin of the shuttle was silent, not the comfortable silence of a team catching their breath, but the heavy kind that sits on your shoulders and makes every sound feel too loud. David sat in the co-pilot seat, staring straight ahead. Mal stood at the tactical console, his posture like carved stone. Sarah leaned against the bulkhead, arms crossed, eyes half-lidded but alert. Even the dwarf version of David, usually ready with a jab, kept his mouth shut. Jojo sat alone by the V-port, the dark curve of space sliding past beyond the glass. She pressed her forehead lightly against the cold pane, watching the distant stars streak by. Something was missing. She knew it. Like a phantom limb, there one moment, dawn the next, but still aching in the space it left behind. The voice she'd heard earlier, it had been important. Someone she trusted. Someone who had always been there. But the harder she reached for it, the less she could grasp. The memory unraveled each time she tried, threads slipping between her fingers. Her reflection in the V-port looked back at her, pale and tired. She mouthed the word,
Who?
without realizing it. The only answer was the hum of the ship's engines. Behind her, David shifted in his seat. No one spoke. No one needed to. The air was thick with the same truth. Whatever they'd set out to do tonight, they hadn't done it. And whatever had replaced the world they knew, they'd have to live with it. The ship was quiet. The jump away from the wedding system had been clean, but the silence that followed was anything but peaceful. The crew sat scattered across the common room, each in their own orbit. No one looked directly at anyone else. Jojo was the first to break.
Okay, in my defense.
Mal's head snapped toward her, eyes like cold stone.
There is no defense.
Her cheeks burned red.
I didn't mean to trigger the rift. The buttons were practically side by side. Who designs a console like that?
Nine's voice cut in, perfectly even.
Probability analysis indicates there was a 0.04% chance of pressing the correct sequence under stress. You exceeded expectations in failure.
Jojo blinked.
Wait, was that a compliment?
No.
Zilch's gills fluttered with amusement.
Come on, she kept it interesting. Without Jojo, we'd have just had a boring wedding. Instead, we got a fireworks show of Klondikes and a chandelier buffet. You can't buy that kind of entertainment.
Mal's jaw flexed.
We are not entertainers. We are rangers. Discipline is the difference between survival and annihilation.
Sarah finally stirred, leaning back in her chair with that razor's edge smirk.
Relax, Mao. The captain's alive. The pirates got their asses handed back to them. And I, for one, enjoyed seeing 6 different versions of him, arguing over who had the best hair.
Jojo snorted, then covered her mouth quickly. Zilch burst into a laugh that ended in a nervous hiccup spray of mist. Even Nine's optics flickered in a pattern that suspiciously resembled amusement. Mal growled low in his chest.
This is not a laughing matter.
Sarah's eyes slid toward him, half-lidded.
It never is, with you. That's why someone else has to.
The shuttle felt like a tomb. No one spoke as the engines carried them off the smoking skyline, away from the wreck of the wedding reception. The only sounds were the thrum of the drive and the faint rattle of loose plating. The crew settled into their restraints, each orbiting their own storm. Jojo fidgeted with her harness buckle, chewing her lip. Zilch sat stiff, his gills pulsing with unspoken jitters. Sarah leaned back, arms crossed, eyes half-lidded, as if the chaos had been a mild inconvenience. Maul stood, still strapped into nothing, one hand gripping the overhead brace, so tightly the metal groaned.
Well,
Jojo said into the silence.
At least nobody died?
Her voice trailed off at the glare, Mal shot over his shoulder. Zilch coughed, trying to bail her out.
I mean, she's not wrong. We've had worse. Well, not us specifically, but statistically speaking.
Sarah cut him off with a lazy drawl.
We looked like fools. Entertaining fools, but fools nonetheless.
Jojo huffed.
I was just trying to make it
Light?
Sarah's smirk sharpened.
You triggered a rift, Cadet. It doesn't get much heavier than that.
Nine's voice crackled through the intercom from the shuttle system's interface, as calm as ever.
Correction. Rift destabilization probability exceeded 93% after Jojo's input. Catastrophic outcome avoided only by chance variables.
Jojo sank deeper into her seat.
Thanks, Nine. Always great at parties.
Zilch chuckled nervously, then added,
Hey, at least we know the captain has good hair in every timeline, right?
That earned a couple of half-smiles, until Mal's fist slammed against the bulkhead.
Enough!
His voice cut like a blade.
We failed, all of us. This isn't a joke. This isn't a game. Do you not grasp what almost happened back there?
The laughter died instantly. Mal's voice dropped lower, hard and even.
Discipline keeps us alive. Not luck, not chatter. Discipline. If we lose that, we're finished.
The shuttle vibrated with the weight of his words. In the co-pilot's chair, David didn't move. He didn't defend them. He didn't correct now. He just sat there, staring through the viewport, into the endless black, silent as stone. The celebration was subdued, but it was celebration, nonetheless. The twins, Rask and Rend, were practically bouncing off the bulkheads, slapping each other's shoulders and rehashing the detonation like it had been a fireworks show just for them.
Did you see it? Did you see it?
Rask jabbed his brother in the ribs.
Boom, 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 like popping a whole string of bubble wrap.
Rend crowed, still grimming.
Best day ever!
The crew chuckled, their amusement tinged with the relief of success. The rift bomb had gone off. The chaos was sown. At the center of it all, the captain stood silent, hands folded behind the dark fall of their cowl, their face unreadable in the half-light. They didn't need to cheer. The small curl at the corner of the captain's mouth was enough. Beside them, the second-in-command lounged with a glass of something amber and expensive, smugness practically dripping off him.
Flawless,
he murmured, as if congratulating himself more than the crew. Across the room, Res Vonix leaned against a bulkhead, arms crossed, eyes down. He didn't drink, didn't smile, didn't even acknowledge the chatter. He just stared at the floor plating as though it might shift under him. The captain noticed. The captain always noticed. The chrono-computer hovered in the center of the room, its holographic readout spinning in slow, deliberate layers of data. It whispered the new shape of reality to them, lines of altered history scrolling past like a ledger of broken promises. One entry pulsed brighter than the rest.
Tarn Prime. Guardian Regiment nullified. Artifact. Chrono-Cloak. Status. Unguarded. Parent status. Tarniter Historical Museum. Curator Rel.
The captain's lips curved. The Chrono-Cloak was the kind of device you didn't just steal. You whispered about it in dark corners and pretended you didn't want it. A technology that made the wearer invisible to both the eye and the flow of time itself. No ripples, no consequences, no trace. Once, it had been locked away behind the most feared soldiers in the sector, an elite Taunite guard known for killing invaders before they even hit the ground. But now the Rift Bomb had erased their formation from history. The most dangerous artifact in known space was sitting under glass, watched by a single curator with a bad hip. Krill, second in command, whistle blow.
That's practically an invitation.
Not an invitation.
The captain corrected.
A gift.
Rez appeared in the doorway, helmet tucked under one arm.
Captain, requesting leave. I need to return to my homeworld for a few rotations. Rest, recalibrate. This mission doesn't require me.
Their head tilted slightly under the hood.
You're certain you don't want to be part of this? The Chrono-Cloak is historic.
I'm certain.
His tone was flat, but there was a tightness in it, like someone holding a door shut against a storm. The captain studied him for a beat, then nodded once.
Granted.
As Rez turned and walked out, they watched his gait, the way his head stayed slightly down. The captain didn't believe in coincidences, and something about him had been different since the bomb. Through the V-port they tracked his shuttle as it slipped from the docking bay, engines flaring into the black.
I just know it,
the captain murmured.
Something's off with you, Rez.
They turned sharply toward the shadows by the wall.
Krill.
A hulking scaled figure stepped forward from the dark, one eye glowing faintly.
I have a job for you.
Professional audiobooks in a click. Spoken.